show. How did we get married? How did we meet? People be wanting to know because we never dated. If you haven't heard the story, strap in because it's a very interesting development.
It's very non-traditional. He had a plan. He said he's going to get married. It was something where he had put a time on it. And we're all like, you don't even have a girlfriend. What are you talking about? And so he just was like, yeah, I'm going to have this plan. I'm going to get married in a year or something or whatever.
I was stockpiling in my head, like the people who I would marry. And there was like 9 women that made the list. Shortly after that, I realized like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Does Bernie make the list?
Oh my gosh.
I was like, but that's Bernie though. That's my coworker, Bernie.
And we was talking about this, and I said,
And
"Oh,
you
what
said,
about that dream?"
And I was like, it was like, ding. I was like, that's it. That's the business. They were like, well, they have a house with 10 acres on it. I was like, let me see that. And it was like 3 houses down. And I was like, I went there. All they had was a foundation for the basement. And it was just dirt. It wasn't even a road. It was dirt. I was like, this is it. This is the myth. The myth is that the Lord is going to reveal to you who the person is instead of you picking the person if you're a man. In 5.
Excuse me. I don't want to start this and you turn it on and I'm breathing all hard like this. People going to be like, what the heck's wrong with her?
I think that's the funny part.
I don't think it's funny at all.
You were doing mountain climbers.
I know, but I was trying to wake up and I was doing squats and mountain climbers, but they don't know that when the camera come on and they be like, why is she breathing like that?
I'll just tell them.
Will you?
In 5, 4, 3.
Action.
Welcome back. I'm Heath.
I'm Bernie.
And it's the Heath and Bernie Show. Yeah. Hey, people. What's going on? I am Heath. This is Bernie. And we are the Heath and Bernie Show. We are a Black Christian married couple that's been married 26 years. We've been working with couples for 24 of those 26 years. And today, we're talking about Heath and Bernie, the Heath and Bernie behind the Heath and Bernie Show. How did we get married? How did we meet? People be wanting to know because we never dated.
Oh, never.
We did not go on not near one date, but yet we just jumped straight to engagement. And how did we do that 26 years ago? Actually, it was 27 years ago because we were engaged for a year, but we'll talk about that. So we want to talk about that because we've told this story many, many times. It's included in my book. People like hearing about our story, so we're going to share our story.
And some people don't know it.
And some people don't know it.
So just wanted to share it. Excuse me, is that my camera right there?
That's your camera right there.
Okay, you didn't tell me that at the beginning, so I was just making sure.
That's always your camera.
I know, but I didn't know if you switch stuff up. You know how you be doing.
Well, in the beginning, I talked to this camera right here.
I mean, that's where I was supposed to look at the beginning, right?
Right.
Okay, that's what I did. But I just wanted to make sure when I talk, I want to look there.
Yes, that's your camera.
Got it.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. So the reason why we're doing this is because there are a lot of new people that started subscribing to us. And thank you for subscribing to us. I'll go to this camera right here. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. We appreciate you for checking us out. So a lot of you don't know our story and our background and how we made it 26 years and how we started doing relationship consulting stuff. I don't know if we'll talk about that.
Oh, yeah. That should probably come into play, though. Because, how did we get here?
Yeah, okay. We can talk about that.
Yeah. We need to talk about that.
And so this will be a story about that. And if you have heard our story, then we're going to share some things at the end that we feel that are some lessons learned from our story and our experience of working with other couples, and maybe something that might help you as a newly married couple, or if you're dating, or if you are currently engaged. So you can jump to that in the show notes. You can go right there and get to that. But if you haven't heard the story, strap in because it's a very interesting development.
It's very non-traditional.
Yes. So first, I want to qualify this and say Bernie was breathing hard in the beginning because she was doing mountain climbers and squats.
I had to do that before because, see, this is what I be trying to tell him, because when I look back at these videos, I be looking like a sleepy puppy. And I'm like, what the heck? Why does my face look like that? I keep telling him these lights. I think as soon as I sit here, I feel like it's 2 bowling balls on my light. And I just feel sleepy all of a sudden. I was awake a minute ago. So I went over there and did some mountain climbers and some squats. Do I look awake? Because
You do look awake-ish.
Okay, because you might have to like pause and let me go do some more because I don't want to look at these videos no more and be looking like a basset hound because that's not cute. It's not. And I'm tired of looking at that.
I used to be telling you like, hey, look alive. You'd be like,
I
what?
don't even be feeling that. I think it's these lights. They just make me sleepy. It's just like.
Well, I'm dark-skinned, so I need light.
Well, and then I suffer. And here comes the hound dog.
Hey, well, okay. Anyway, let's get to the story. So this all started back in 2000.
2000.
I mean,
1996.
No, actually 1994.
For you.
For me.
Yes.
So there's my part and then there's Bernie's part. Because Bernie's part didn't kick in until my part kicked in.
Basically.
So I had gone through some series of you know how that's the typical story when a man gets that heartbroken when they're a teen.
Oh, you went all the way back there.
And then, well, I'm not going back there. But
okay.
You know the typical story, a man gets his heartbroken when he's a teen, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to ruin the world. None of these girls mean anything. I'm just going to be a savage out there. Well, that's why I was in that phase, my whole phase. I was in that savage phase, which is why I went down to Freaknik. If you saw that other video, I'll link it up here somewhere.
Which is why I told him he wasn't saved. But anyway, I digress. We'll move on.
Right. So I was in that in the crux of it, and I was like, eventually, I want to get back to being in a relationship, being a relationship dude, because I was always a relationship dude. I wasn't one who wanted to be out there in the streets. I just found myself outside in the streets and enjoyed it. So I was like, eventually I'm going to need to get back. So I need to start to figure out how to get back. So I started a process. I didn't know how long it would take. Yes, I did. I think I said it would probably take me 2 years.
This is in 1994.
It was in 94.
Right.
I said it would probably take me 2 years to scale back all these tomfoolery and hijinks that I was doing in these whoremongering ways. It would probably take me 2 years.
What kind of ways?
These whoremongering ways.
Okay.
It would take me 2 years to scale that back. And so I was like, I need to figure out like what I need to do. So I started like pulling back from certain spaces. I started stop hanging out with certain people. And I began to get more spiritually in tune with what it is I should be doing in church and in the Lord and all that other stuff while I was growing and maturing and everything. And then, life was life. And at the time I had a job. So I was like, I was an adult now. I was 24, 25 years old. And I was like, okay, eventually I'm going to start getting back into this relationship space. And
mind you, I did not know him during all this time, but we had mutual friends. So I knew of him. I would always hear his name, but I didn't know him at all. I just heard his name in circles because we had mutual friends.
Right. So I was like, eventually I'm going to get married. So I need to, and this is like when Halle Berry and David Justice, the baseball player, they had just got divorced. And I was like, if somebody can divorce Halle Berry, then there's must be something other to marriage than like beautiful, good looks and body. So I was like,
really? That's when that happened. That's what gave you that conclusion. Like,
absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So
I only remember one thing about that Halle Berry and David Justice situation. What? I remember when I saw her tell a story and she was feeling sad about the divorce or whatever. And then she said, and they went in the courtroom and he opened his mouth and she said, oh yes, I got it. Now I remember. I understand why we're here. That's all I remember.
So I was like, I need to have a list of character traits that I'm looking for in a woman, in a wife. And so anybody who meets those character traits, you make the list of a qualifier of somebody who will like make the list of somebody who I would potentially marry. Now, mind you, I wasn't dating anybody. I didn't have a girlfriend. I was single. I was still outside. And so I did not really have any, I had a criteria that I was creating, but I didn't have anybody that I was like, okay, yes, I want to marry you. So what happened over that period of time, over that 2 year period, there were certain people who I met. I was like, okay, you make the list. Okay, no, you don't make the list. You make the list. You made the list, but now you're off the list because I saw something that I didn't like.
Now he's pointing this way, but he's not talking about me, just so you know.
Right.
I was not on no list.
She wasn't on the list because Bernie and I worked together. We worked in the same HR office and we worked on the same team. We actually sat right next to each other.
And that's how, when I told you I didn't know him before then, when I finally met him is when he started work, because I was already at the job, and then he
Yeah,
started working there.
I
And then
came
I'm
in
like,
there.
oh, you're Heath. So
Yeah.
that's how we met, because our mutual friends actually worked there too. And so then after he finally came there, I'm like, oh, that's Heath.
So, and she had heard about some of my hormone
It was
ways.
all negative, everything I heard.
And
so
one
I
of
didn't
her
really
friends was,
I didn't really like him.
she was one of the people who knew
He was using.
Well, so anyway, so I was like, okay, I need to have a list of people, have a list of criteria. And what eventually happened, I didn't know, this is hindsight, I didn't know I was doing this at the time, but what eventually happened was, I was like, there's certain people that made the list, and there were certain people that didn't make the list, and I was stockpiling in my head like the people who I would marry, and there was like 9 women that made the list, 8 women that made the list, and then eventually some got kicked off, and then it dwindled down to to 6.
Are you going to talk about your announcement?
You could talk about that. Hold on,
Okay,
but let me.
I'm sorry.
But I said I want to be married by the time I'm 28. I don't know. I just said I want to be married by the time. I didn't want to be 28 and still single.
How old are you making all these lists?
I was 24.
Oh, okay. You're still there.
24,
okay.
25, I think. So I was like, I want to be married by the time I'm 28. So that means I need to get married when I'm 27, which meant it was going to be the year 1997. So I want to be engaged for a year, because I think that's a good amount of time for me to be engaged and to learn everything I need to learn in order to get married. So that means I need to be engaged by 96. And I like the month of fall, the fall months. That's my favorite month. So I want to be married in October. So October of 97 is when I want to get married, be engaged for a year. October of 96, I need to get engaged. And so I need to pick who I'm going to marry by September of 96, which will give me about a month to persuade that person to marry me. And then I'll go ahead and get married in a year later, and then I'll meet my goal. So that was what I was thinking at 24, 25. So that was my plan. So I was like, okay, you make the list. No, you don't make the list. You don't make the list. Oh, yeah, actually now you do make the list. And so that's kind of where I was with my list.
So like he said, we started working together. So it was a group of us at this job that hung out all the time.
Right.
And so he made this announcement to that group. And when I say hung out, we might go, what did we go out to eat? Did we go bowling?
Like the coworkers go after, go somewhere, go out after work, or meet up on the weekends and go somewhere.
Right. It was a group of us that always kind of hung out. And then sometimes me and Heath might go like just friends though from that group and
because like other people couldn't go.
Right. And so it always ended up with us. And
I think we went out like twice, 2 or 3 times. I think twice I remember.
See Todd Hall speak one time.
Oh,
and then we went to like skating or something. Somebody else, we went ice skating, something that people couldn't come.
We went to the movies one time too.
I don't know. Other people couldn't come. So sometimes it just ended up with us. But anyway, I said that to say in that group at work, this plan that he just talked about, he told all of us like, about this plan. You didn't tell us about a list. You just told us about.
No, the list was private. I kept the list private. I didn't tell nobody about the list.
Right. He just told us all about this plan that he's going to get married next year or within a year or something.
It was, I don't know.
I don't know, but he said he's getting ready. He had a plan. He said he's going to get married. It was something where he had put a time on it, and we're all like, "You don't even have a girlfriend. What are you talking about?" And so he just was like, "Yeah, I'm going to have this plan, and I'm going to get married in a year or something or whatever." So he told all of that. So all of us that. So every now and then the months would go by, and we'd be like, "Hey, Heath, how's the plan coming?" And he would say,
I was like, okay, yeah, I'm down. There was 9 people, now I'm down to 6.
And we don't know nothing about that. We just asked us, Heath, how's it going? Because he made an announcement about this plan. He's gonna get married in a year or whatever, and he didn't even have a girlfriend.
So as that was going on, as September 96 was approaching, I was like, okay, these people are being knocked off the list, and I think I was down to 3. And then we skipped the whole point in time.
Yeah.
So during that time, because Bernie and I sat next to each other at work,
we worked on the same team.
We would come in on the weekends and talk about our weekend activities and what we did on the weekend.
Right.
And she would share her stuff, her relationship stuff with me.
Who I was dating,
I would
what
share
they did wrong.
my relationship stuff with her.
Everything. He would tell me all about his shenanigans. All about it. Everything. Because if you don't, care about the person in that way. You don't care that they know all your business with other people and dates and all that kind of stuff. So I knew he was telling me everything, which is why I said he wasn't safe. But anyway, because I knew way too much. But
so we had become really, really close, almost dang near best friends. And then eventually grew into becoming best friends.
Right.
Because I had pulled back so much from my other friends, my other circles. And I had delved into, okay, you need to start becoming more spiritually mature. You need to start going to, that's why Bernie talked about, we used to go to like church together. We saw Miles Monroe together.
Oh, wait. Oh, my God. So good. Yeah.
And we were just friends, just still co-workers.
Right.
But I was starting to lean in more into that mature Christian person I was supposed to be becoming. So it was coming down to the point where I was like, okay, I'm down to 3 people. And I realized that, wait a minute, Bernie.
Bernie,
what?
I remember having a conversation when we was friends on this team, and you had this plan, and I said, once you get you pick your fiance, whoever she is, we ain't gonna be able to hang out like this no more. She's not gonna understand our friendship like this, I
was like, yes, we are.
And she's
just gonna have to understand.
This is what he's saying to me. But I was like, okay. But as a woman, I knew like he don't understand. That's not gonna work. We ain't gonna be able to be tight like this.
It's my friend Bernie.
No, we're not gonna be able to be tight. When she come, I'm gonna have to pull back and move away because she ain't gonna like this relationship. I'm telling you. He's like, no, she just gonna have to understand. I'm saying, okay,
and
whatever.
Shortly after that
ain't gonna work.
Shortly after that, I realized like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Bernie meets the criteria that I've been holding these other women to account for. I was like, wait a minute. Does Bernie make the list?
Oh my gosh.
I was like, but that's Bernie though. That's my coworker, Bernie. I was like, she makes a list. Okay, I got to put Bernie on the list.
That's how I got on the list.
That's how you got on the list.
Oh my gosh. Was that now? I remember when you was over somebody's house, because you would do this often.
Yeah.
Be over people's house and be calling me.
This is before you were on the list.
Okay, right. I wasn't on the list, but somebody would get on your nerves or not talking to you. Just
I would call Bernie at some other women's houses because I was bored.
He just calling his friend.
I'm just calling my friend. Like, I'm not doing nothing.
He said, I'm over so-and-so house. I was like, she don't care that you call me. She's like, no, because I mean, you might. And I'm like,
love any of them. What are you talking about? I would love any of them.
I also remember when I was home in California one time and people got on your nerves real bad a few times. You called me when I was in California.
Oh yeah.
And you were venting.
I was venting.
You called and was venting to me about all your issues with all these women. I
remember that.
Or whatever. And I was like,
so
sound like a personal problem.
I think you were on the list at that point in time.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, you were on the list at that time.
I don't know nothing about no darn list.
Anyway, so it came time to like September of 96. I'm like, okay, I need to make a decision about who I'm going to select. And I was like, okay, Lord, how are you going to, show me who? And this is one of the myths.
Good. This is a good lesson.
This is one of the myths about
for y'all.
People who think that the Lord is going to tell them who they should marry. I'm not saying that it's not, the Lord can't say you're going to marry this person, because I know there's some people that the Lord says you're going to marry this person.
With a warm shower. Okay, I'm being funny. Somebody told us that one time. Never mind.
Somebody told us that they sat next to a person in church
and
they felt like a warm shower. And he looked to the side and told this woman he had never seen before, the Lord said that I'm going to be your husband. You're going to marry me. And she was like, what?
This is a true story.
Yeah.
It's a true story.
Yeah. So they didn't get married.
That woman ran.
They didn't get married. What was I saying?
You were saying this is the myth. This is the
the myth. This is the myth. The myth is that the Lord is going to reveal to you who the person is instead of you picking the person. If you're a man, you have agency and license to pick the person, because out of the 3 women that there were for me to marry, I could have picked any one of the 3 because it was my decision to do it. And the one that I chose was best for me at the time when I made the decision, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And so it's a myth that you think that you have this Shangri-La moment where God's going to be like, oh, I have revealed and opened up the heavens and think this is the one. It doesn't necessarily always work out that way.
Oh, and does that also go along with the like soulmate thing? People,
exactly.
Like my person, soulmate. Exactly. It's now in 2024, it's my person.
Oh, that's what. Oh, yeah, it is that.
And back in the day, it's like, oh, this is my soulmate.
Right.
And
All
I don't know what
cap.
it was before.
All of this cap is pick someone.
Because what if they in Indonesia? I'm just saying.
Right.
How you gonna meet
right. them? And if you look at the Bible rarely has that rarely talks about scripture about how someone met, how married people met.
Yeah.
Adam and Eve, we can't use that as a story because, God created both of them. You have Abraham and Sarah. They just talks about them being married. There's a few examples where an uncle went and found a wife for his nephew, or a father picked a daughter to marry Jacob. And so there are instances where in those instances, there's like your dad took the woman and said, okay, you're going to marry this man.
It's kind of like how some of the Indians, how they marry in these other cultures.
Yeah.
It was done like that.
Right. So even in those cultural traditions and in biblical history, there's not many examples about how it happened. So you cannot prescribe your own method as to this is how it's going to happen. And that's what I used to see a lot of millennials doing. They were saying, I want to meet someone and it's going to be this way. This is like right in the beginning of online dating, and they were refusing to do online dating. They're like, oh, well, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And they were like, I'm not doing that. I want it to be this way. I want it to be this way. And I'm not going to meet somebody who's at Walmart. Like, what you doing in Walmart? I was like, why?
What did they just in it or working there? In Walmart?
In it. She was not going to date somebody in Walmart. And I was but you're in Walmart. Why are you not going to date somebody else that's in Walmart? I mean, the NyQuil's cheaper.
I'm just... they not work. They could be working there too, though. But
what they was on at the time. Okay. She has since changed her thinking on that.
Okay.
She did a whole podcast about the conversation I had with her about that.
And her switch. Okay.
So it's not going to be. You don't have control over how it's going to happen or how you're going to meet the person that you're going to fall in love with or be married to. You just have to know if this is the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. And that's the decision that you have to make. So this I don't know.
Based on some criteria that you have seen and been around the person and,
make a decision.
Yeah. And make a decision based on some behaviors and stuff you like and dislike about the person. You know what I mean?
So speaking of behaviors, I was down to 3 women and I was like, okay, Lord, I need to know how these women are going, which one I'm going to pick. And what happened was one of them pissed me off. And that's when I called you in California. Mm-hmm. She pissed me off. And I was like, okay, yeah, she's out. And so they were down to 2.
So sorry.
So I was down to 2. And the other one said something. And I was like, okay, yeah, you're out. And I had
no idea.
And I was like, Bernie.
You just knew it. That was
it.
That was the last one on the list.
You.
I rose at the top like butter in the pot.
Butter in the pot.
Don't butterize fat grease.
Don't say that.
Okay, nobody.
Be quiet.
Edit that. Wait, don't that rise in the pot?
It does, but you didn't rise in the top like butter. That's just not.
Pause.
No pause.
Is that a pause?
That's not a pause moment. Just be
quiet.
But
everybody loves
story.
Bacon and butter and all that.
It was clear out of all the women that I knew, Bernie had the qualifications in terms of character, in terms of like who she was as a person, how she treated me. Really, for real. Oh, this is another good point. Ooh, this is a good
another
point.
Myth and lesson.
I don't know if it's a myth or lesson. It's a lesson.
Here's a nugget. That's what we'll call it.
Bernie was the best person for me because I understood what I wanted to do in life, and Bernie was the best person for me to do that with.
Say that again.
Bernie was the best person for me because I understood what I wanted to do in life, and Bernie was the best person for me to do it with.
How did you know that I would fit into what you wanted to do in life?
I mean, we worked together, so I knew you were a strong Christian woman. You were condemning me for going to Freaknik.
Well, I mean, and so that's just the way I was raised.
As a Christian woman, I knew that I did not have to worry about your just biblical principles. I knew that they were there. I wouldn't have to If anything, I would have to I have to pull you from being church mother.
He had to pull. He had to teach me about grace because I ain't really learned about grace coming up in church. I ain't learned about grace.
But those values I wouldn't have to deal with. And you were genuinely a caring and I wouldn't say sensitive, but you were concerned about what was fair.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You were like, if it's not fair, then you shouldn't do it.
I don't understand.
It's not fair.
That's not fair.
So you were just a nice person. So I was like, those are some good. I mean, there's a lot more, but those are the underlying values that influence a lot of your decisions and how you interacted with people and what you said and how you talked and stuff like that. And
you know what it is? I took and this how I had to learn a lot of lessons because the world is evil. I took people until I was in my past, I took people at face value. I mean, if you said something, then I just believed you.
Yeah.
So when I ran into a bunch of liars who literally lied about things that was unnecessary, you didn't even have to lie about the sky being blue or whatever. I'm going to take your word as face value, but I ran into people that just killed my trust, whatever. So I what you were seeing was genuine, faith in people who to say when you're talking, who you are, right. You believe what you're saying, and we're all talking like real stuff here, face value. That's how I took people until I couldn't. Until I found out that the world is evil and people don't think that same way, and you have to be careful and keep that head on swivel. But when people run in their mouth, so now I know easily when stuff don't make sense, it's a lie.
Okay,
that's what I be telling people because. You have a woman intuition, and it's something don't seem right about that. That is always inside a woman, and whenever you feel that, there's something going on.
Another point that I think is a very, very key point for men, I would say. Oh, and this is important for women. This is important for women and men. That the person who I knew I wanted to be as a husband, I knew that you wouldn't abuse that. You wouldn't abuse the grace and the sensitivity that I would have that would leave me vulnerable.
I was going to use that word.
It would leave me vulnerable, and you wouldn't abuse that.
And you know what?
And I knew that about you, and I was like, I can be safe with her.
And you know what? It's funny because I hear a lot of men today, in today's world, talk about how I feel like that's one of the things that hold men back because they don't feel safe with some women. They don't feel like they could be vulnerable because they feel like the woman might
misuse, abuse,
turn on them in some kind of way, or make them feel small. I feel like, make them feel not like a man or whatever. And that's a big thing to a man or whatever. And I feel like a lot of them are afraid. I hear a lot of them talk about that.
Yeah. And from what I knew of you, I knew that I can trust you with me. I can trust you with me.
Woo, 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 woo. That just made me want to rub on you. Aww.
Oh my gosh. So
where are we at in the story?
Also,
okay. You got another nugget?
Yes, and this is 3 in a row.
Okay, come on, nuggets.
I knew that the person I wanted to become, you deserved it.
Okay, deserve it. Yes.
you deserve. You out of all the people that I knew, you deserved to be the person that I wanted to become, and that I would not feel like I'm wasting my pearls on swine. Yeah. So that's why I was like, yes, Bernie. That's what all what Bernie meant. Bernie, yes.
Okay. And you felt confident that all those things would pan out.
Yeah.
And they did.
So I was like, okay, Bernie's the one. September 1996. So I'm like, okay, now I got to figure out.
We still just friends. You talking about I'm the one out. We not dating, nothing.
So actually, I prayed about it, and I was like, okay, God is.
You seek counsel.
Yeah. I said, okay, here's another myth about seeking counsel.
Because you went to different people.
I went to different people. They didn't give me no good advice.
This another nugget.
They didn't give me no good advice.
Listen up, fellas.
That's part of the reason why I wrote my book. that's another part of the reasons why when I talk to men about relationship advice, especially if you're engaged, I'll tell you the truth, not the just pray about it and let the Lord speak to you. Because when I prayed about it, I didn't get any new information.
Oh, that's why you're saying it wasn't good advice, because it wasn't new.
No. I prayed about the decision I made.
Yes.
I was like, okay, Lord, did I make the right decision? I'm going to submit this request to you, and then see if you're like, no, run. But he didn't say no, run. So I was like, okay, I'm going to move forward, which was an answer to the prayer. It wasn't like the confirmation was like, it was silence. It wasn't really like, okay, don't do this. Juxtaposed.
He will do that though, because
Yeah.
I've seen him do it too. On the other end, like, at a retreat, and a prophet says something and told somebody.
Oh yeah, he'll tell you
speak
not
out
to do.
Say, don't.
He will
don't
tell
walk
you
into
not
that.
Yeah.
You just gotta listen.
Don't do that, Bernie.
I ain't know what.
Anyway.
Nobody.
What was I
But
saying?
I want to know about the counsel. What did they say to you?
The counsel.
That wasn't. What did you get? Because I thought
one
Uncle
person
G,
was. Yeah, but it was like, you pray about it, and
you had already did that.
Is she the one? Are you sure? Throw out a fleece. That's what somebody told me, which was.
What does that mean?
Throw out a fleece. If you've been in church long enough, you heard.
I know what that means.
You heard this. Like, throw out a fleece.
So what was you supposed to? What does that mean? Literally, what you're supposed to do?
In the story of Gideon, who was a prophet that was picked by the Lord to lead the Israelites into battle, and he had 10,000 men. He had 30,000 men, and he was supposed to only lead with 300. God told him to go take these men and go to fight. He's like, oh Lord, I'm not worthy. I'm too small. I'm in the smallest tribe. I'm the least in the tribe, and I'm the youngest of the least. So not me. And he's like, yes, Gideon, you. And Gideon was like, well, Lord, if it is me, I'm gonna throw this fleece out on the ground, and I'm gonna let the dew fall on the grass and not on the fleece. And then it fell on the grass and not on the fleece. He's like, okay, but Lord, all right, now I'm gonna throw this fleece out again on the ground and let the dew fall only on the fleece and let the ground be dry. And the fleece was wet and the ground was dry the next morning. And then he's like, let me one more time.
Oh my gosh.
And so somebody said that they did that to find out if the woman that they wanted to marry was the woman to marry.
What did they throw out? They literally did that. What do you know what I'm saying? What was the fleece in that scenario?
I don't recall what they said the fleece was. I don't recall. I don't recall what they said the fleece was.
Okay.
But they said they threw out a fleece.
Okay. I was just wondering.
And mind you, I'm 25, 6 at the time, so I'm like, what does that mean? What do you mean?
Oh yeah, 20. Yeah, 20.
And so it was hard for me to understand.
Okay.
But I was like, okay, that's not helpful. Like, what am I going to do? What kind of fleece am I going to throw out?
So if you didn't really get good advice after you went to the Lord and you made the decision, you went and sought counsel.
Yeah.
And they really, then you didn't get. So what made you be like, okay?
Because I'm a grown man. And I know the Lord myself, and I make my own decisions. That's why I'm saying it's a myth that the Lord is going to come tell you this is what it should be. What I realized happened was the process that I put in place was the Lord's way of confirming for me who I should marry. Mm-hmm. So it was like, whatever you decide to do, I'll rock with you. And it's
kind of like what we learned from Miles Monroe. Like, you got to move, and then I will guide you. It's like faith without works is dead. You got to put something out there so I could.
And I was reading the story of, what's his name? King David, in 2 Samuel. And this is when he did the thing with Bathsheba on top of the roof, saw her. It was like, I want her. And then I'm going to go ahead and send her husband go to the front lines without a sword, and he died. And then Nathan the prophet came to him and was like, if a man, takes a man's goat and kills him and takes blah blah. Anyway, the point that the prophet was making was that, David, you have multiple wives and concubines, but yet you decided you saw a man who had one wife, and you took his wife from him, killed him, so that you can have her as your wife. And so now I'm going to kill one of your children, your firstborn from this woman, because she was pregnant. And this is what he said that changed my thinking. He said, I gave you multiple wives, I gave you concubines, and if that was not enough, I would have given you more. That's what the Lord said to David, which meant that it didn't really matter what David was doing. I mean, if you think about all the things David did, his heart was for God.
Right.
Out of all the thing, David was a killer. David was a killer. He was out in them streets. Mm-hmm. And David also was a man after God's own heart. But whatever he did, it didn't matter because God was for him. Mm-hmm. And if you read the stories of after David became king and how he became king and in all of the battles that he fought while he was king, it was like, I'm going to go into this town, I'm taking it over, and I'm going to kill the men and bring the wives back as concubines and slaves. And I'm going to do this with these people. And I'm going to do the same thing with this other town. And God was like, do it. Mm. He was
okay with that.
He was okay with all of it. And that was during the time where God was taking over land.
Oh, okay.
But it didn't matter what David did. God was like, because I rock with you, then whatever it is that you decide to do, I'm sanctioning it. I'm for it.
Except that one.
Because
the way he went about it.
Because you didn't have to do that. That was evil in your heart.
Yeah, you had more than enough.
Another time that God sanctioned David was when David took a census of all the people that he had underneath his authority, all of the fighting men. Mm-hmm. And even the priest and his captain of the army was like, David, you probably shouldn't do it. He's like, do it anyway. And it was because
God what? He said, do it.
David, no, the priest
said,
and the general of his army, commander of his army, were like, don't do this census thing because it's not right before God. God wouldn't want you to do that. Mm-hmm. David was like, do it anyway.
Oh, David, okay.
So it took them 9 months to do it. They came back and counted how many fighting men they had, and then after he did it, God said, why'd you do that? Because what it is essentially that you're doing is you're trying to count how many men you have to fight, and you're going to rely on the numbers that you have and not me. Because I'm the one who be making sure you win these battles.
Right.
And so because you did that, then I'm going to do.
You're going to lose.
No, I'll give you 3 options. He said, I'll give you 3 options. This is the power of God. I'll give you 3 options. You can either be ravaged by your enemies for 3 months. You can have, you can have a famine for 3 years. You can be ravaged by your enemies for 3 months, or you can be hit by a plague for 3 days. You pick.
Is there an option 4?
David was like,
oh my gosh,
Lord, it was my decision. It was my fault, my bad. Please take it out on me and my family. Don't punish the people. God was like, so which one of the 3 that you?
Oh my gosh.
Which is a lesson.
All you had to do was.
This is a lesson to some women. I didn't know how I was ever going to bring this story into a podcast, but I really always wanted to.
Well, here it is.
This is a lesson to women.
To women, okay.
In this story, because David did that thing that was wrong, and God punished David. This is how God punished David.
Which one?
David chose. He said, I don't want my life to be put in my enemy's hands, so don't have me ravaged by my enemies. And if anything, I trust your mercy, so I'm going to allow you to do a plague on me for 3 days.
Oh,
a plague on my people. And so he
picked the plague.
He picked the plague for 3 days, and God said, I'm going to unleash the angel in heaven. And the angel was going around killing Jews of Judah for 3 days, to the point where people were like, oh my God, it was like the pandemic.
That's was worse. It sound like.
It was worse. He said, so at the end of the 3 days, 70,000 people got killed.
Oh my goodness.
And the Lord stopped the angel when he was at the threshing floor of this man's house. He was about to go in and kill this man. And the Lord was like, okay, all right, that's enough. Angel, good. I'm going to call you back because, okay, it's a bit much. And so David built an altar at that man's house. He bought that man's house from him and built an altar there, saying, this is where the Lord spared people alive anyway. And so
you said this was for women.
Yeah. What the point of that is, when you have a man that makes decisions, His decisions caused 70,000 people to get other people to get killed. 70,000 people got killed because of this one man's decision. So if you're going to follow a leader, you got to make sure this leader is of good character. Because if he makes a decision one day, it may be the 70,000. You may be one of the 70,000, or you may be one of the 70,000 that gets killed, and you're not even associated with the leader. Because think about Kevin or David, not David, it's Kevin or Sam, who's just in a house somewhere. Next thing you know, he get killed. What did I do? Nothing. You just are under David. But because David made a decision up there, you got to get killed. It's like when men go into war. It's like, oh, somebody in some office made a decision. We're going to go to war. And then you send people to war and he gets killed. And it's like, oh, sorry.
But it's true how when a man, he can make a decision, and because he doesn't have good character, the whole household will suffer. The wife, the children, everybody.
That story taught me that, dude, you need to be very careful when you make decisions. I think I was early in my marriage when I read that story.
Thank you, Lord.
And I learned, I was like, ooh. So it was David who messed up, but everybody else died. And then even David was like, no, just kill me and my family. God was like, nope. Because here's the thing, because I rock with you. I chose you. You're still my man after this. Wow. I'm gonna kill your son and these 70,000 people for the two things that you did wrong. But I still want you. You're still my man. So that says to me, as a husband, the thing that he wants me to do as a leader of the family, even though I may mess up, okay, you're gonna take this fade. You're gonna take these licks. But afterwards, I need you to get back to the work that I've called you to do. Elijah, okay, Elijah, you done called down the storm, the fire to burn up this water. You done killed 900 prophets of Baal's prophets. And then Jezebel threatened you the next day, and you were like, I'm running scared. And you ran scared and hid in the wilderness. And then God was like, you finished? You tired yet? You straight? Okay, now get up and eat something. Now go back to what it is I told you to do. He's like, I don't care what you did wrong, but when I chose you as the person, I knew that you was going to do this wrong in the first place before I chose you.
He cracks me up, God. He has such a sense of humor, because it's the same thing with the guy who was supposed to go to the one who was in the well.
Jonah.
Yeah, Jonah.
Yeah.
and he did not, and the reason why he didn't want to go there is because he didn't feel like they deserved what the Lord wanted them to deserve.
Them people were too evil. They too ghetto over there.
So he's like, I'm not going to. It was something with an N. Nineveh. It's hilarious. He still had to go after he came out of that belly of that well. Anyway.
But that's the thing that I learned about when you make decisions, and about the importance of having good leadership in a man as a husband and not messing up. Okay, so, back to the story. So now at this point, you went to seek counsel. You didn't get any good advice. So you went back and you just stuck to you. What you realized is that you already did this plan, and you were confident in your decision. This process was the Lord providing me the justification to move how I wanted to move. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure out now how I'm going to tell Bernie, because we're still friends and co-workers. And now I want to marry this woman. So I got to figure this out. So I was like, all right, let me see. I think it took me like 2 weeks to figure out how to do it. Oh, so one day I was at my mom. No, I was at home, and I was getting ready to go to my mom's house to wash clothes, because I didn't have a washer or dryer in my home at the time. I was living in a single family home that didn't have a washer and dryer.
And I lived in an apartment.
Right. So I was like, I need to go to my mom's house and wash clothes. And
periodically, as friends, Heath would call me and be like, what you doing, whatever. And because I'm a homebody, he was always out in the streets. Right. And he would call me like, what you doing? Nothing. I'm in the house, blah, blah, blah. So then this time he called me.
So I was like, I'm going to my mom's house to wash clothes. I'm going to pick you up on the way. So
I'm like, I don't want to go with you. No. What? I don't want to do that.
Get dressed and put on some clothes. You're going with me. Stop playing. You always want to be in the house.
Yes.
I picked her up on the way from her apartment to my mom's house. We passed my dad's house. So I was like, oh, let me stop in and say hi to my dad.
Never met his dad or his mom.
So we stopped in. Now, mind you, I wasn't consciously like, oh, let me introduce Bernie to my dad and my mom. So I just happened to, I was driving literally right past my dad's house. I was like, let me stop in here and just say hi. So I dropped in there, introduced Bernie to my dad, checked on him, and then, we left. We didn't stay more than 10 minutes.
Just said hi.
Then went to my mom's house. I was like, hey, Mom, this is Bernie. I came to wash some clothes. She's like, oh. And my mother took me upstairs. And
did your mom know?
Yes.
So you had already told your
I didn't tell her nothing. I didn't tell her anything. But I had, mind you, I had never brought anybody over to my mother's house. Mind you, I was living in my own house at the time. Oh. I never brought anybody over to my mother's house.
Okay.
So I went, so you were downstairs.
I was sitting in the living room by myself.
I put a load of clothes in the washing machine in the basement. And then I went upstairs. She's like, Heath.
That's what she was doing?
Yeah, she was like, Heath. Is she the one that you're gonna like marry this person?
That's what your mom said?
That's what she said. I don't think she said like is she like the one? I was like, yeah. She's like,
but we were just friends.
I know. I was like, well, to you, you were just friends.
Okay.
My posture had changed.
Oh.
You had changed status in my mind.
Oh, okay. I ain't know.
So I was like, yeah. She's like, I can tell. I was like, how could you tell? You said, because there's a lilt in your voice. I had to go look up what lilt meant. I was like, what the
There's a lilt in your voice while you're talking to her?
Yes, there's a lilt in your voice. Oh. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Wow.
I was gangster. I was like, I have a poker face. I don't have no lilt in my voice. I'm not no lil. I'm not lilting over here. So I went downstairs and I put the clothes finished washing. We were just hanging out in my mother's living room. My mother went upstairs and let us just kick it. I don't think she was downstairs with us.
In the living room by herself.
And so I put the load of clothes in the dryer, and I was like, okay, let's go get something to eat, because it was like the late afternoon, and I was like, I haven't fed you yet.
Yeah, which was
because in my mind, I had to take care of my wife now. I got to feed her because I've got her out. It's the middle of the afternoon. She hasn't eaten. I haven't eaten. So I need to go feed her.
And in my mind, fed me. We ain't never, like, when he said, I haven't fed you yet, I'm like, feed me. He'll never feed me, because we have been out before and we, go out and eat and we pay for ourselves. It's not like you taking me out or nothing.
Right.
But in my mind, I'm like, fed me. Yeah, he's never said that before. And then I was like, well, free meal. Because I was, young and I don't know, GS4. I don't know. I was struggling. Okay.
A free meal is a free meal.
Right. I was like, okay,
so we
whatever.
went to Bennigan's in Rockville.
Oh, I still love Bennigan's.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
That was my favorite restaurant.
Oh, I love Bennigan's.
So we were at Bennigan's in Rockville. And so we were sitting there eating. And I was like, how am I going to say this? How am I going to tell her? How am I going to tell her? So we were talking. And then she was like, yeah, my mom, she's not doing well.
My mom had been getting sickly a lot. Like every time I'm from California. And so every time I would go back home and visit, it was like she was deteriorating every time. And I was like, I need to move back home. So I was telling Heath, I was thinking about looking for a job in California so I could be, at home around my mom more. So I'm the youngest of 6, but I kind of just wanted to be near her. And so that's when Heath was like.
Well, you were saying that because where we both worked, they had a Fort Worth, Texas facility.
Oh, yeah.
So you were thinking about transferring to the Fort Worth, Texas facility because that was closer to California.
I was going to start there. So when she was
telling me that, I was like, no, you can't do that.
And I was like, what you mean I can't do that?
I was like, no, you can't do that because you're the one I want.
He spoiled all my food. I wasn't even hogging him. What? I was like, what?
I was like, yeah, you're the one I want. I said, I want to pursue a relationship with you. I said, I know that you really probably can't handle me asking you to marry me right now. But I just want to let you know that I want to pursue a relationship with you that leads toward marriage.
And then you start talking about what love was in First Corinthians.
First you were like, no, no. I was like, yes. I said, no, yes. I said, yes. She's like, are you serious? Are you kidding?
Yeah, I thought it was a joke. I really thought it was a joke.
Because she had known all about my whole story. And she was like, you're kidding. I was like, no, I'm serious. I love you.
Oh, my God. And I was like, what? what are you saying? And then this is around the time, remember when they would be punking people? Was that Punked was out, whatever? And
Ashton Kutcher's.
Yeah, him and Montel or whatever, and Oprah was doing, I don't know. But it was around time. And I was like, they about to,
so
somebody
she started
about to jump
looking
out.
around the restaurant.
I'm
like,
you are kidding. This is not, this
I'm
funny.
being punked. Like, where's Oprah? Where's Montel? Where's like,
Ashton Kutcher? I'm being
she was
punked.
like
This
looking
is
around
not
the
funny.
restaurant, like, okay, stop playing.
It's not, yeah, I didn't think
like,
it was funny. I was like, and then he would just kept, then he went into, I think that's when you went into like what love was.
Yeah.
And then about 1 Corinthians or something, you started describing, and you were saying something about you're the one that I want to give that to, or you're the one who deserved that, or something that you were saying. And I was like, this nigga, he's serious. At that point, I was like, oh my gosh, he is serious.
Because you had seen me grow and mature away from those whoremongering ways into a more Christian, serious individual.
Yeah.
And so you knew that when I said that, I wasn't kidding.
Yeah, I mean, after a while, when it wasn't, I figured it wasn't a joke.
So
like,
after that, she had no more appetite.
No, I didn't even want no more food.
And so we packed up the food up, and then we went back and picked up my clothes, and then I took her back home. And so after that, every day after that was a Saturday. So I think every day after that, we talked on the phone every day.
And we didn't do that before.
No. And what we did not know we were doing at the time.
Yeah, when we hindsight.
Here's another good
nugget.
Good point. We were negotiating the terms of our marriage.
Basically.
We were negotiating the things that we had never discussed, like, well, what about children? Or what about church? What about family? What about household responsibilities? What about, whatever we can think about that we had not thought about before.
What about driving? What about anything? We was just all the stuff that we never talked about because we wasn't trying to put nothing together. We just started asking, like, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
Do you believe in the Holy Spirit?
So we were negotiating our marriage. So I think that's very important for couples to do, to negotiate their marriage while they are dating. And then you can practice those roles while you're dating, so that you can know if this is really what you want and if this is really who you want to do it with. But if you already are engaged, then this is the time where that stuff is like formalized. Like you're formalizing what it is that your roles will be in your relationship, in your marriage, so that you can practice that. So when you get married, what happens is you walk down the aisle and then you come back up the aisle. Everything else is the same.
Exactly.
Everything else is the same. You're still the same.
I remember sitting in the limousine. I said, "You feel different? You feel married?" He's like, "No." I said, "Me either."
But you are married now. And so all those things that you previously like, oh, we're going to do these things, now they apply. But if you have been doing them all along, then the transition is not that great. It's actually like, okay, we just keep on doing this.
For a whole week, we talked on the phone.
So for the whole week, we talked on the phone. So this is now the following Saturday, September 28th or 29th, September 29th.
Oh, you remember the day? Okay.
Yes. Very important to me.
Okay.
So I had something at church that day, and as was the custom, something would irritate me, and I would be like, "Oh my gosh, I gotta get this off me. I gotta vent." I was like, "You home? Can I come by?" You like, okay. So
always home.
On my way over, I was listening to Dr. Lewis Greenup, and he was talking about it was a cassette tape that he was talking about how fathers should not give their daughters over to a man in marriage unless he's been trained or unless he's qualified or been trained. And the point he was making was that one of the analogies he made was that if you are a father and your daughter's getting on an airplane and that pilot has not been trained, would you allow that your daughter to get on an airplane with a pilot who's like, yes, I prayed about the pilot course, and I feel like the Lord is leading me to fly this airplane. Would you allow your daughter to get on that plane? And the answer obviously was no. And he made it real funny. He was the video was the cassette was very, very good.
Yeah.
And so when I got to Bernie's house, I was telling her first about the craziness that happened in church. Second, about that tape that I was listening to, and I was explaining to you about what the tape was saying about the father would not allow his daughter to get on a plane without a pilot being qualified and trained.
Didn't you bring it in and let me listen to it?
And so I put it in, and so you can hear it.
So I was listening to the tape, And then I said, oh, I remember. So then we stopped the tape. And so I looked at you and said, can you fly the plane? And you said,
and I said,
I'm just waiting.
Yes, I'm just waiting for a co-pilot.
And then I said, okay, let's do it.
Then I jumped up, I gave her a big hug, and I jumped up and down on her bed.
You did.
I jumped up and down on the bed. I gave her a big hug because what I had realized is like, it's happening. Like,
yeah, because we just made a decision.
Yeah, it was like
we were gonna be.
We're gonna get married, and it was like, and I was thinking like, I'm about to get married. Like I'm about to like be a husband and be I was like, but this is what I wanted though. This is what it was like. I felt like I was now. It was now verified that I'm going to be the person that I want to become. Mm. It was like I always wanted to be a husband and family man, so I was like, yes, this is the process, and it's happening now. I found the one I wanted. She said yes, and it's September 96, so we can be engaged for a year, and then we can get married in October of 97, like I planned in 1994.
So after we had that little conversation, I said, okay, let's do it. And so now we had to, because we still work together. Right. Nobody knows that we've made this decision because we literally are just friends and just made this decision about getting married and being together. So, but now we got to get used to each other in a different way of thinking of each other a different way because it just wasn't automatic. Right. Because, we were best friends, one of my best friends, best male friend or whatever. But, so we didn't, for a whole month, we didn't tell nobody at work because we needed to get used to it ourselves. Right. So we didn't really tell nobody, even though, were you still on my team or were you on a different team? You had moved to
I had moved to a different team.
Okay. So we didn't tell nobody at work for a whole month. And so, then what happened? Then
what was happening during that time was we also had to get used to the feelings that we now had to engage to somebody who we're supposed to be, who we're engaged to, but we didn't have engaged feelings. Yeah, it was very weird. It's different than when you get together to somebody that you see and you like and you be like, it was just different feelings. You have all those emotions that like are drawing you to that person. Yeah. To me, they were there because I had been building this up over a long period of time. This was not something that I had just arrived to. This was something that you had been on the list for a minute. And so you had, and my mind had already changed about, this is my wife and we're going to do this. And I was forecasting like the vision of what we were going to do and everything. So it wasn't as hard for me. Yeah. Okay. So for me, I had to just get used to just like, thinking that way because we didn't come together that way, or like he would say, oh, that looks nice or that's sexy, and I'd be like, ew, in my mind because that's my friend, why are you talking like that? So I had to get used to that. And then the other thing you had to get used to because you were a very external, outgoing person, right? And he would do things with people at work, like dip them. You'd be saying hi and he hug and dip people, and I'd be like, oh, I ain't like that. Yeah, and I would do it in front of Bernie so that she would know that, hey, I'm doing this out in public, so it's not nothing private that I'm doing with somebody behind your back. Now, before when he did that. Not knowing that it was inappropriate for me to do that. Right. And before if he did that within that group, no, it's not attachment to me. There's no big deal. But now we done made this decision. You're not going to, no more dip. No. A whole lot of this, all these touchy stuff. Outside. Yeah. So anyway, we had to get used to a whole bunch of that. We had to find boundaries. We had to learn one another. Yeah. But that was what that year-long engagement was, to me, was for. When we made that decision in the apartment and at the restaurant, there was no ring or nothing. This was just a decision. Right. So that was September. So then in February, Valentine's Day, you took me out to dinner. Right, because people didn't believe us. You're right, because we told people after about a month, and people were like, y'all ain't getting married, we're at work, because we all work together. And nobody believed us in that group. And they're like, where's the ring? Where's the ring? Right, because I was like, hello, ring. I haven't got that yet. Right, but they didn't believe us. I'm going to get one, though. Like, when? sometime close to the wedding. I was thinking, I was like, I got to save up money for that.
Yeah. So nobody believed us, and so then
that's why for Valentine's Day, I needed to get you a wedding ring. I was like, I need to get a wedding ring for Valentine's Day.
Yeah,
because people are walking, and you started feeling uncomfortable telling people that we were getting married because they would immediately look
at my hand, and I'd be like, oh my God,
it's not here yet. I was like, okay, yeah, I got to rectify that.
I ain't saying nothing to nobody.
I got to rectify that.
So then February came, we went out to eat, and you pulled out the ring.
Yeah, the proposal was not like what you see in proposals nowadays.
No.
I planned on I was going to do a restaurant proposal, which was going to be at a nice restaurant, and it was supposed to be at a nice restaurant, and it was a nice restaurant,
the name, but that one just wasn't nice because we have been.
So there's this restaurant in Chevy Chase, Maryland, called Clyde's. Nice joint. I mean, nice.
It give you the vibe as Copper Canyon vibe. Well, our Copper Canyon over here.
Not really Copper Canyon.
Okay, sorry.
Anyway, it was a nice restaurant for me.
It was very nice.
For me, and they had great food. And so they had one in Columbia, Maryland. They had a Clyde's in Columbia, Maryland. I've never been there, but I know if the one in Chevy Chase is nice, then I know the one in Columbia is nice. Not so. We walked in. I made reservations for Valentine's Day. We walked in there. It had red and white checkered tablecloths.
I was like, for picnic.
No. And then the hostess sat us at one of those 2-seaters where there's people on both sides of you. I was like, I looked at the table. I was like, no, never mind. Never mind. We didn't even sit down.
No, we left. I'm like,
I was I can't do that here. I cannot.
I just thought we going out to eat. I'm like,
cannot propose to her here. So now we're riding around at nighttime, 7-ish, looking for a restaurant to go to. In Columbia, where I'm not familiar with, I'm like, oh man, I don't know where I'm at. And we're just driving around. What's this restaurant over here? Oh no, I don't know. I don't want that one.
And it's Valentine's Day.
And it's Valentine's Day. And I'm thinking about what restaurant is a good restaurant to propose to. So we ended up at Olive Garden.
You sure did. Wait, in where?
In Columbia.
Oh, yeah.
Olive Garden in Columbia. Yep, now, I know y'all are joning on me for going to Olive Garden in Columbia. Yes, you should joan on me. I receive all those jones. But that was the only place I could find to go. And I needed to give her the ring for Valentine's Day, because if I didn't, then I needed to give her on Valentine's Day. So we went into the restaurant, and we sat next to each other, which I thought was super corny, but I had to do it because
you said we did that.
We sat next to each other for Valentine's Day. And so I was like, oh, so we ordered the food, and I don't know if I gave it to you afterwards, after we ate.
I think it was after.
So probably after we ate, and I was like, shushing.
Did you get down on one knee?
Well, first I gave it to you because we were already getting married. So in my mind, I was like, here's the ring.
Oh.
And you were like, oh, that's not.
I
put it on your finger, and you're like, oh. And I was thinking, for as much as this ring cost and as big as this rock is, I was like, I should have got a better response. Show them the ring.
I could, first of all, this is the same one. I never got no upgrade or whatever. This is it. This is the same one.
That's a 1.5. Was it the 1.5 carats?
Yeah. But the problem was
back in 96.
Yeah,
this was 97 by then. 97.
Yeah, 97. But the problem was, these restaurants are dark. I could not see. I couldn't see it. It was like Olive Garden was like really dark, so I really couldn't see it.
Yeah. So she couldn't really tell. It wasn't blinging. It wasn't blinging.
I couldn't see it.
And so when I was like, dang, I should have got a better response than that. But then she was like, hold on, aren't you going to get down on one knee? So I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So I had to take the ring back, get down on one knee, profess my love to her in Olive Garden, and then put a ring on her finger. And people were like, oh, clap, 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 clap. So it really was kind of corny.
Yeah.
But I mean, back then they didn't have the internet and social media to give you standards of what you should do. So just the fact that I proposed and got down on knee was the standard back then.
But then when we was leaving and we walked out in the lobby,
as we were walking in the lobby and they had lights, then
I could see the lights.
Had lights, and the lights started blinging off of the ring. She was like, oh! I was like, there it is.
I couldn't see.
That's the response that I was looking at. You were like, oh, and you put it on my head.
I said, it look good upside your head. I did that in the car. I said, oh, it look good upside your head. And then that was February, and then we got married.
Then we went to premarital counseling.
Yep.
We talked about that before in previous episodes.
8 weeks at my church.
And then 6 weeks at my church.
Yeah.
And then after that, we
in October 1997.
got married October 97.
October 10th it's a holiday weekend
Yeah.
because it's Columbus Day he made sure.
A tip for people who are getting married, if you are not married yet, get married on a holiday weekend or around a holiday, because you will always have that holiday for your anniversary.
Yeah, when you take trips and stuff.
So whenever Columbus Day is actually today, it's now called Indigenous Day, but back then it was Columbus Day. Mm-hmm. Columbus Day is our anniversary weekend. So whatever the October 10th, however close that falls to the weekend, that's our anniversary trip where we're going, and we got an extra day. So if you getting married in the summertime, pick somewhere near the 4th of July, so you have that weekend, or or Juneteenth, something that you can get an extra day. Then we got married. So yeah. So
after we got married, we had been married, I don't know, 1 or 2 years.
Not even that long.
Not long. The first
months.
year, within the first year, people kept coming up asking us questions.
Oh,
what happened? Yeah.
What was happening was, because of the way we came together, and because we pre-negotiated our marriage that week. The things that we decided during that week, that's what we stuck to.
We still do it to this day.
Yeah. We stuck to those things. Now we've added on to that. It's not like that, just that small thing.
I did try to negotiate some things to try to change, but some things just, we're not.
Right. She did try to renegotiate that, but I didn't want to renegotiate that, because I negotiated cooking out of my responsibility.
Because Heath don't cook, I do all the cooking, which was fine when we first, I said, so I wanted, year 15. I was like, can we talk about this cooking thing? Don't you want to cook? So he's like, I don't want to cook. Because his number one thing, he want to cook. And I was like, I'm not driving. As long as we together, if we in the car together, you're driving all the time. But, I have my own car, so I'll drive when I'm alone. But if we in the same car, I'm not driving.
She didn't want to do that. And I didn't want to cook, because I wasn't cooking when I was single, when I was living by myself. But I washed the clothes.
Yeah, he washed, I fold, because he can't stand folding and put away.
Clothes, but I prefer to wash the clothes.
Which I don't mind.
Because I know how to wash clothes. Not that you didn't know how, but I do know how. So I wanted to wash the clothes to make sure that my clothes got clean.
And I fold and put away. Right. I don't mind him washing.
So those are the type of things that we talked about during that week when we negotiated.
Yeah, stuff like, and this is the key too. Here's another nugget.
Yeah.
If you do make a decision and go through this negotiating and say the things that you want to do and that you're going to do after the fact, can you stand on that, please? Don't back off of what you said you was going to do, because it just messes it up, where then they're not going to, you're going to cry and then nobody's going to believe you when you back off your word. You got to stick to your word. And
if you want to and like Bernie said, if you want to renegotiate it, then have a conversation to renegotiate it.
Right.
Don't not do it.
Just stop doing what you said you was going to do.
Because you don't feel like doing it anymore. And then let the conflict that brews from that be the impetus for the renegotiation. That's what you don't want.
Right.
Which is what typically happens.
Right.
Just, okay, I want to renegotiate this. I know I said this is what I was going to do, but now that I'm doing it, I really don't like doing it. And
we talk about
I want to, restructure this.
Yeah, restructure. That's all it is. It's a realignment.
And it may mean that you got to okay, if you don't do this, then what are you willing to do to replace that? Or if you got to take something off of the other your spouse's plate, then hey, it's a negotiation. Let's be clear. It's a negotiation. So, be willing and flexible to renegotiate that. And one of the things that was really, really, I think, helpful for us is that, for me, everything was negotiable. Everything.
Except cook.
No. I mean, in the beginning, when I negotiated that. I had already negotiated that.
Oh.
I'm talking about in the beginning.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Everything was negotiable. So wherein people have these non-negotiables.
Oh.
My non-negotiables were the things that qualified Bernie to be my wife. So I didn't have to negotiate those things.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why Bernie made the list and was the best person for me, because the non-negotiables had already been
right.
dissolved.
I didn't marry my deal breakers.
Right.
So that's what you cannot marry your deal breakers. Because I had deal breakers too. Like he's saying non-negotiable. I'm not going to marry somebody who say one thing and do another. I had a lot of trust issues. Heath just proved me wrong. But it took him like 3 years.
Yeah.
To like prove me wrong. Nothing that he was doing. Is just like I had a lot of trust issues, so I was just waiting for him to just not do what he said because that's what I was used to.
Right.
And after he just kept being him and proved me wrong, then I started believing it. So, but what like he was saying, the negotiables, I wasn't gonna like marry something that I just couldn't deal with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we were seeing was that what people were seeing in our marriage in the first year, I'll say, is how we were able to solve problems because we had a structure for which to deal with the problems. And then once we decided on it, it was like, okay, that's what it is. And then that's what it was.
And we didn't back off of it.
Yeah.
It's like, once you make a decision to do it this way, you have to do it that way because then you'll mess up the environment of like, I'm not going to believe she's not going to do what you're going to do.
You create a precedent that says, I'm going to do it this way until I don't want to do it this way anymore.
And that's your environment and your culture of your household.
And once it's a precedent, then the other person is like, oh, that's what we on?
That's what we doing?
That's what we doing then.
And then you got tit for tat. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You just go back and forth. You look up 10 years later and everybody's still tit for tatting. Miserable.
Yeah.
Miserable. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that way, guys. We did not do
that. And so what was happening was people were coming up to us and saying, hey, I remember this one couple was married 10 years and it was asking me for advice on how to solve the problem that she was having with her husband. And I gave her some advice, which I thought was good advice. And I was like, why is she asking me? We only been married 6 months. Mm-hmm. And it was in church. And I was like, they were older. They were like in their 40s or even late 30s probably. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's weird. And so that kept happening. And I was like, why people keep asking us stuff like, and pulling us aside?
Yeah. That was
like,
happening.
What is going on? And so I was like, let me write down some things that we keep telling people so that I don't have to keep telling them this. I'll just write it down. Sometime during that, I had a vision. Did I have a dream? Yeah. I had a dream that there was this was a piece of land that we owned, and that I was teaching people to run like a military boot camp.
Yeah, that's
run toward problems and fix them, and you attack the problems like the military be fighting wars by just attacking. Even though there's gunfire, explosions, and stuff going on, the military still attacks. They still run to it instead of running away from it. And it was because they are equipped to know how to deal with that. And that's the vision that I had as a dream. And I told Bernie, and I was like, I probably need to tell our accountability couple because that's probably something that they should do. So I told him, and he was like, oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. But he didn't do anything with it. I was like,
and then
I had a dream, and that was for you. But what I did not know, it was really a dream for us.
Right. But then I went to a retreat, a women's retreat, and they were talking about creating businesses and stuff, whatever.
Right.
And I came back and talked to you about it. And then you was saying, oh, we was trying to think of what business should we create, whatever. And then I said, what about that dream you had?
We were on the blue line on the Metro.
On the Metro.
Leaving Addison Road. No, leaving Benning Road, going to Addison Road.
And we was talking about this, and I said, "Oh, what about that dream?"
And I was like, "It was like ding!" I was like, "That's it. That's the business."
Yeah.
And that was the moment we went back home and we came up with that list of 85 things,
problems, relationship stuff.
And then and we wrote it down. I was like, "We're going to start a business." And then that was when we started our business. That was November of 1999.
And it was called Family Boot Camp. And tell them what the business was, because some people didn't know that we had this.
Well, okay, so
how do we get to the team building?
Oh gosh. So November of 99, that's when we came up with that list. And then 2 months later, January, we formalized the business in 2000. So the Family Boot Camp was created in January of 2000.
That's when we had like a 501c3 and not the LLC.
Yeah, we had a 501c3. And then we created
bylaws.
We created bylaw, and that's a business structure, but we created a curriculum. It was just strictly premarital counseling at the time.
Yeah, at the
That's
time.
when we did premarital counseling.
Yeah, because it was called premarital boot camp because it went with that dream that you
Yes.
had, and it was about couples
doing team building activities, military style,
Right.
that equipped
the
you
woods.
and be prepared you to run toward problems and solve them.
We wanted to give people a different avenue of getting some kind of guidance
Right.
instead of going to a counselor, laying on the couch and talking about your problems. We
Thank
wanted
you.
to do things where people are out doing exercises, team building stuff and stuff like that, because sometimes a lot of men don't want to go to a counselor.
Right.
And we're not licensed counselors, but we
Right.
call ourselves relationship coaches because consultants, right? So that's what the business had a lot. And so we started off doing it in our first house.
2001, we moved. We expanded the business there.
We used to have people at that house. They would be doing the exercises all through our house, in our backyard.
We would create team building activities.
Yeah.
And different things inside the house. We were upstairs.
They was all upstairs in the house,
in the
down,
basement.
wherever.
We would create a maze for them to do blindfolded throughout our living room, through the kitchen, go upstairs, downstairs,
all
in
through.
the basement, crawl underneath the pool table.
And we would give letters to friends of ours at their houses, where some letter they would find maybe at our house would tell them, go to this address and then you'll get instructions.
Yes.
So we had different friends of ours in on it.
Yeah. We had one where like, go to this house and do what they say. And one person he got the letter, went to the person's house. He's like, okay, I need you to trim my hedges. And so he trimmed the hedges, and it was like, okay, next. And and he gave him a letter, and he had to go back to go someplace else.
So we did all that kind of stuff. And that was one house. We also used to go to different parks and stuff because we needed the land. So he started looking for land for many years because we wanted to live on the land and do the business on the land.
I had been looking for property for like 7 years. And so we saw the real estate agent said, go to this property. There's 5 acres there with a house on it. Go check it out. I was like, ooh, we're going. And we saw the property, and I was like, nah, that's not it. They was like, well, they have a house with 10 acres on it. I was like, let me see that. And it was like 3 houses down. And I was like, I went there. All they had was a foundation for the basement. And it was just dirt. It wasn't even a road. It was dirt. I was like, this is it.
10 acres. I thought it was on 4. The house
She told me 10.
Oh, okay. So anyway, long story short, that was actually normal school where we lived. We eventually they built the house.
Right.
We was able to make decisions on how we wanted to build because we got in on it on the ground level.
Literally.
And so the house was actually on 4 acres, and then they had another 9 acres that they couldn't do.
9.5 acres.
9.5 acres that they couldn't do no with, and they just gave it to us. That was the Lord. And so they was like, y'all want it? We were like, yeah, because we knew we was gonna put all our obstacle courses and all these team building exercises inside those woods.
We could actually build out obstacle courses in the woods on the 9 acres.
Right.
9.5 acres.
So when we moved there, then we started doing the business at that house. We were actually able, the Lord allowed us to actually live on our property and do our business out in the woods because we had 14 acres at this house to do the business, which we did for how many years?
We did that in 2006. And then we retired in 2017.
Yeah,
retired that part of the business in 2017.
Yeah, that part where people go all up in the woods and doing all kinds of. We had like I don't know, thousands of people to come through there, and people would come from like all over. They like different states, and it was a good run. It was fun.
Yeah, and so after that, then we also were meeting with clients individually.
Yeah.
At the time, I also went back to school and got my master's degree in organizational leadership, which allowed me to focus on using team building activities. This is what my thesis was on, using team building activities to improve marital satisfaction in a marriage. And I did a good job with that. Bernie was in school.
Yeah, I went back to get my master's in pastoral counseling. But then my mom passed, and so I got out and went through that. And then when I tried to go back, the classes that I kept trying to take, because we working too all at the same time, working full-time jobs. And when I tried to go back, they kept canceling the class. They kept canceling. It was just a lot going on. And I was like,
you would sign up for the class and they were like, oh, sorry, we got to cancel it because there's not enough students.
Yeah, every
Then you
time.
sign up for the next semester. It was like, oh, sorry, we got to cancel it again.
Yeah, and they kept doing that.
And I think that was your last 1 or 2 classes before you were going to start your clinicals.
Yeah, so I didn't get to finish that. And then recently I was like, let me go see what they're doing over there. They don't even have that anymore.
Yeah.
It's something else. But anyway.
We did that, and then the rest is history, I guess.
Yeah, and then we retired that, and now we
still meet with clients individually.
Yeah, we still do that.
Again, we just started that back up.
Yeah, because you kind of needed a break.
When we moved, we stopped.
Oh, that's right. We did. We stopped, but now people need help out there.
People need help.
So we're starting back and helping some folks.
We had some petitions.
Yeah.
Some people, one of my first clients was like,
oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Yeah. Love them.
So yeah, that's the Heath and Bernie story. That's how we went from outside in these streets and home inside the apartment to
I was just his friend.
To married 26 years.
26
having
years.
Worked with thousands of couples, really purposely and intentionally doing things to help people's marriages to obtain and maintain happy, loving, trusting relationships. That's our
and it's really
statement.
Something that we really love doing. You know, we like
it's really who we are. Yeah,
it is. I mean, we like to see marriages work. We like to see them come together. It really bothers us when people don't make it, because it doesn't have to be that way. But I understand sometimes, sometimes maybe we shouldn't have married the person in the first place.
Very good. So if this was entertaining and fun and you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. We are here really to help you all. This is just a sort of really wanted to share who we are.
Who we are.
Some of you all don't know us. Some
of
you all just are getting to know us and you don't know our background. So that's kind of our background and how we became, what we've become.
How we became Heath and Bernie.
Yeah. So that's why we're the Heath and Bernie show. So yeah, please like and subscribe if this was entertaining. Please share this with some other people that would think that they would get some helpful content. And because we're out here trying to really help couples, if there's some other videos that you've seen that you think are beneficial and helpful, please share those. We want to start doing things more intentionally to try to help people. One of those things is that's what I was going to ask. We want to start fielding questions.
Oh yeah.
We used to do one of the spaces previously. We did this thing called Millennial Dating Chronicles, where we were helping millennials navigate the dating space. And in that process, we were doing Q&As. And so people would message us or email us or text us and ask us questions, and we would answer those questions.
We would do a video and answer the questions.
Yeah, we would do a video and answer the questions.
We've got one video that we did in 2017 about trust.
We still get views on that.
That thing keeps coming up. That was back in the day.
So yeah, we want to start that again. So if you have any questions, please leave those questions in the comment on this page
that they would like us to talk about or answer.
Any questions that you want us to answer or anything about relationships, marriage, dating, that kind of thing. Leave those questions in the comments of this video and let us know. And if you follow some other social media platforms, you can leave those comments there as well. Okay. Until the next time, we out.
Bye.